This is Your Life, the program you dare not miss. Brought to you now, here he is, Mr. This Is Your Life himself, Ralph Edwards.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we're honored to have as our principal subject a man whose name is known to all of you. A man who built an empire. Now, how does a man start with nothing but a dream and make that dream come true? Well, there's imagination, there's prayer, there's hard work, a little bit of luck perhaps, but mainly there are people. People like this man who gave his life savings of $300 to our subject when he only had 37 cents to his name. People like this man who helped our subject in a transaction involving millions of dollars. People like this man who can't speak a word of English. Look at these faces and see how part of each of them has been molded into the face of tonight's principal subject. This man, Conrad Hilton. Mr. Hilton has been brought to NBC to record a prayer which he wrote several years ago. Let's walk in here before he starts. Mr. Hilton, would you forgive me for interrupting you like this? My name is Ralph Edwards. Now, we'll hear the prayer which you were about to record later on. How do you do, sir?
Well, how do you do?
Right now, though, Mr. Hilton, we are on television coast to coast right this second, because tonight, Conrad Hilton, this is your life. Well, now, our thanks to Fred Joyce here, to your secretary, Mrs. Ruth Hinman, to your cousin. Come here, Fred Joyce. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know if the boss is going to slug you or not here. I don't know. To your cousin, Dr. Joseph Hilton. Thank you very much, Dr. Hilton. And to so many others who've been helpful in keeping the secret and telling us about you. A man who was born in a small town in New Mexico. I ought to know because I go through it every time we go to Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Whose dreams made him the world's most fabulous host, and who found that faith endures beyond fame. Mr. Hilton, if you'll accompany me, how are you doing? All right?
I'm doing all right.
All right. We'll walk back to our This Is Your Life stage and to some surprises, some very pleasant surprises. Gentlemen, if you'll take him around that way. In the meantime, let's look at a youngster who's mighty happy, and if you heard the good news that she's bringing home, you'd be glad too. Let's go this way. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conrad Hilton. I want to show you something. Mr. Hilton, we have commissioned Stanley Jolly, a leading artist, to create this mural. Now, there's a picture of you. It shows that the span of your 70 years covers so many adventures, so many places, and includes so many people that it would take us several half hours to do it real justice. But right now, let's sit down over here and go back to a rainy night in New York City. The date is October the 12th, 1949. October 12th, 1949. Why was that date important to you, Mr. Hilton? Huh?
It seems to me that was the day that we bought the Waldorf Astoria.
Just like that, we bought the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. As you're standing in the rain outside the Waldorf, waiting for a taxi to take you to a dinner party to celebrate its purchase, many thoughts must crowd in upon you. Here's a dream fulfilled, a dream that had its beginning in San Antonio, New Mexico. And here's a childhood friend who remembers your beginning, Senor Jose Antonio Gonzalez, now of Albuquerque, New Mexico. You can talk to him. I can't. You understand Spanish.
Well, yes. Well, we were both born in the same little town in San Antonio.
Yeah. ¿Te acuerdas de tu yegua chiquita?
Sí, seguro.
What's this Chiquita business?
That was that little the horse that I had by the name of Chiquita.
And you on Chiquita and Jose here on his horse Valente would ride through the greasewood and mesquite, sometimes adventuring so far that you'd forget to be home before dark.
Yes.
What else do you remember about Senor Hilton here, Jose Gonzalez?
¿Te acuerdas cuando íbamos a la escuela juntos? Yo me iba a jugar y tú te quedabas en la escuela.
Seguro que me recuerdo.
¿Te acuerdas cuando estábamos yo y tú y Ezequiel Padilla jugando y luego iban combate ustedes y yo Lo zapataba.
Now, I got to hear this. What did he say?
He wants to know if I remember when I had a fight with another fella down there, and he separated.
And whenever Mr. Hilton is in, now he said something that you never played hooky, I think, but he did, I think, in the earlier part there. Whenever Mr. Hilton is in Albuquerque, he comes to see you, doesn't he? Thank you, Jose Antonio Gonzalez. Loyalty is a trait. You're born on Christmas Day, 1887, and christened Conrad Nicholson Hilton. With each new arrival in the Hilton family, a new room was added to your father's house. One for your sister Felice, now Mrs. Coney C. Brown of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Another room for Sister Eva, Mrs. Lewis of Little Compton, Rhode Island. Another for Rosemary, Mrs. Dean Carpenter of New York City. And for Helen, Mrs. Edward Buckley of Chicago. Girls, just put him in the middle of you here. Come on, Mr. Hilton, stand between your sisters. Your brothers, Carl, Julian, and Boy, have passed away. Your father owned a general store in San Antonio, New Mexico. Didn't he, Miss Brown, Felice?
Yes, he did, and I remember so well Connie working in that store. He was an assistant clerk behind the counter, and you were only 12 years old at the time.
And earning how much money, Mr. Hilton?
$5 a month.
Yes.
The store was the principal place of activity in all of our town because Papa sold everything. His motto was, you name it, we've got it.
From Papa, Connie learned the meaning of work. From Mama, we all learned the meaning of prayer.
You remember, Mr. Hilton, what your mother said to you when you were 9 years old and you were grieving over the death of your cherished mare, Chiquita. What did she say to you, sir?
She told me not to worry about that and to go in and say a little prayer and that I would forget it.
Right. From both your mother and father, you develop a love for music.
I played the violin, and when I was almost 18 and you 20, our father got the idea that I get two of my friends and we start the Hilton Trio to bring culture to the New Mexicans, whether they liked it or not.
You were our manager, Connie. Remember me? I played the piano. It's been over 50 years since we've seen each other.
So let's not wait any longer for this reunion, then. Mr. Hilton, may I reintroduce Edith Chapman, now Mrs. Samuel J. Eddy of Portland, Oregon. Was the Hilton Trio a success, Mrs. Eddy?
Oh, artistically, yes. But financially, no. Connie, through all these years, I've saved this statement that you made out at the end of our tour.
Well,
and it is, you see, it's dated August 8, 1909. It shows that our net profits were $27.45.
What a tour.
And each of the trio received $9.15, and all that you got out of it was our thanks.
Well, we had a lot of fun on that trip, didn't we?
Didn't we?
What about the day that we landed in Las Cruces and nobody came to our
Now,
show?
Connie, you should remember
I don't think
that.
that's recorded in there at all. Thank you, Mrs. Samuel Eddy. Eddie.
Eddie, that's
Yes, I was editing the book there and got Eddie in there. Mr. Hilton, the third member of the Hilton Trio, Viva Head Parr, is looking in tonight. Her health would not permit her traveling here. Thank you, sisters Felice, Eva, Rosemary, and Helen. I'm sure that lots more music will be made when you all get together at the party in your honor, Mr. Hilton, which will be held right after the show, of all places, at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, where your family and friends have been staying. Oh, my. And so that you'll be able to have a record of this party, we'd like you to have this Bell & Howell 16-millimeter camera and sound projector, too. Just before you took the Hilton Trio on its cultural excursion through New Mexico, you got your first taste of the hotel business. The Depression of 1907 created havoc with your father's store. And with your mother's good cooking, your father decided that if the family home was turned into a hotel, you'd have more business than you could handle. Now, what was your job at this first Hilton Hotel?
The first job was meeting trains and clerking at the store and also clerking at the hotel. We had two trains a day that came in at night. One that came in at 1, One came in at 3, so it was meeting those trains.
Oh, my. And the Hilton Hotel was soon making a name for itself with rooms at $2.50 a day with meals. And when you were 25 years old, you were elected to the very first New Mexico State Legislature. And when you were 26, you opened the New Mexico State Bank of San Antonio.
And when Connie was 30 years old in 1917, he sold his bank and enlisted in the United States Army.
Friend you made during the First World War, now an executive of Hilton Hotels International, Bill Irwin. Here's Bill. Now, look, in just a minute, Mr. Irwin, we'll hear about Mr. Hilton's experiences in World War I. Right now, you and he just be seated there and chat a moment. And to life, Conrad Hilton, president and founder of the Hilton Hotels Corporation and Hilton International. Now, Bill Irwin, in 1917, you and, you call him Connie, were overseas together in France, weren't you?
Yes, we were. And I think the most important thing the Army did for Connie was to give him the chance to get out in the world. He saw when he was 30 years old, really big cities like San Francisco, New York, Boston, Chicago. It made a tremendous impression on him. Connie, you didn't think then that 40 years later you'd have hotels in all those towns. Nor did you think that the friends you made at that time would be so lasting.
Well, thank you, Bill Irwin, for returning from a trip overseas to be here tonight.
Thank you, Ted.
January 1919. You're still in France when you receive a cable telling of your father's death. And within weeks, you're on your way back to New Mexico. But as with so many other returning servicemen, you can't seem to find yourself. You're restless, impatient.
And when an old friend of Connie's told him, if you want to launch big ships, go where there's deep water. Go to Texas, Connie, and you'll make your fortune. He was on the next train to Texas, and I was with him.
The press agent for the Hilton Trio in 1909, now an attorney in Albuquerque, New Mexico, probably your best friend, William A. Kelleher.
Oh, Bill, that's
Now, Connie Hilton went to Texas with $5,000 to buy a bank, didn't he, Will Kelleher?
Yes, and we went to Cisco, Texas. Connie negotiated with a view to purchasing the bank there. He had a deal on, but it fell through. He was very much discouraged and chagrined. He walked into the Mobley Hotel in Cisco and asked to get a room. They told him there wasn't any room, and to come back in 8 hours, and they might give him a room. It appeared that the hotel proprietor was renting rooms in 3 shifts. Well, that made Connie curious. He investigated a little and began to talk to the proprietor about buying the Mobley Hotel. As a result, he closed the deal and purchased the Mobley Hotel for $40,000.
You wire your mother, Frontier found, water deep down here, launch first shift in Cisco.
Well, Connie closed the deal, and the very first night, business was so good that he was obliged to give up his own room to a guest, and he slept on a table in the lobby.
Thank you, Will Kelleher, for coming here to tell us the start of an empire. And at last you've found your niche in life. You dig into the operation of the Mobley with all your energy. This is such a successful financial venture that your vistas broaden. New Hilton hotels rise above the Texas landscape in Abilene, in Waco, Marlin, Plainview, San Angelo, Lubbock. And in 1929, you announced that you will build a $1,750,000 hotel, the El Paso Hilton. 19 days later, the stock market crashes.
Things look pretty black, Mr. Hilton. Remember? Why, you were even locked out of your room in your own hotel.
The voice of an old employee of yours, Mr. Hilton, who learned your lesson of esprit de corps very well. Here from Dallas, Texas, is Eddie Fowler.
Hello, Eddie. How are you?
Now, Eddie, you were working at the Dallas Hilton as bell captain when the crash came, weren't you?
I remember so well. The roof started caving in. Mr. Hilton was over $1.5 million in debt. Sheriff was going to close his hotels. However, he never lost faith. He went to church every morning and prayed. We all prayed with him.
Yes, sir. When things looked darkest, it was Eddie Fowler here who helped give you confidence to continue. Now, how was that, Mr. Hilton?
Well, Eddie came to me one day, as I mentioned, he was the bellboy in the hotel, and he said, Mr. Hilton, he said, I know what you're going through. Here's $300. He said, this is eating money for you. Take it, and I know someday you're going to pay it back.
And with this money, you're able to go to Galveston, where you merge the Hilton hotels with another chain, thus saving your sinking ship.
About 2 weeks, Mr. Hilton come back to Dallas. He gave me back my $300 plus $50. And he says, Eddie, I believe we got it made.
Yeah, that was just about all the money he had left from that deal, wasn't it, at that time? And you remained with the Dallas Hilton for 20 years. Thank you, Eddie Fowler. Thanks, The world of your hotels grows, Conrad Hilton. Your dreams never stop, but you work to achieve them.
And Connie, your biggest dream was realized on that October day in 1949 when over a cup of coffee at the Plaza Hotel, you and I were able to resolve a serious problem, and you became the man who bought the Waldorf Astoria.
A man who has played a very important part in your life, Mr. Hilton. He wanted to be here tonight, but a business engagement is keeping him in the East. Here is your friend and the man who himself bought the Empire State Building in New York City, Colonel Henry Crown.
Connie, after you bought the Waldorf and realized your dream, it was suggested that you retire. But your dreams have always been beyond your horizons, and retirement for a couple of guys like us would be impossible, wouldn't it?
You're right, Henry.
This all brings back so many memories to me, Connie. I remember when we met in Chicago, you were negotiating for the purchase of the Palmer House. You thought you had raised all the money necessary to close the deal. Then, at the crucial moment, you discovered you were $1 million short and phoned me. I remember the nonchalant way in which you said, I need $1 million quick.
Yes. And you, Colonel Crown, just as quietly answered, I'll let you have it, Connie, providing the bank will lend it to me. Would you please ask Hugo Anderson if he'll credit my account with $1 million, and then I'll credit it to you.
As you said, Mr. Edwards, Connie always generates confidence with his great optimism. So how could anybody say no? Keep following your dreams, Connie.
Thank you, Colonel Henry Crown. How your dreams have taken you far beyond any horizons that you could ever have imagined, we'll learn in just a moment. Conrad Hilton. Waldorf Astoria Hotel.